Uh-oh, this is a warning sign that you are about to make a big mistake. Training gym owners, I am going to share with you a very common flaw in the thinking. So I want you to look out for this warning sign. Do not take action until you watch this video. Okay, that was maybe a little dramatic. Hi, I am Mark Fisher. I'm a co-founder of a company called Business for Unicorns. And if you like this video, well, you should head over to businessforunicorns.com to find out more about how we help training gym owners create more income, more impact, and more freedom. All right there, fitness business owners. Woo. So today is one that is definitely more about philosophy, but I hope you'll see as we address this, this is going to allow you to unpack truly a place where thinking errors could occur, and I'm gonna give you some actionable steps to make sure that you don't do things that wind up actually hurting and preventing you from getting the things you want most in your life. All right, so here's my takeaway for you. Anytime something doesn't make sense, you are missing a model, which is to say that everything follows its own internal logic, that whenever you see maybe behavior from a client or behavior from someone on your staff, and it doesn't make sense, all of this means is we're missing something. We're maybe missing some data, we're maybe missing a model to understand what logic that is following. So anytime you find yourself saying, this doesn't make sense, or certainly in interpersonal affairs, with someone on your team, they're doing something and you're like, that doesn't make sense, why are they doing that? I guarantee you there's something you don't know. So whenever we find ourselves confused about an outcome or behaviors, that is an opportunity for us to stop where we are, get curious, get humble, and realize we need to do some more digging, right? So let's talk first specifically about business outcomes, because that one probably is a little bit easier and more intuitive. So let's say hypothetically, you launch some new marketing initiative and you have maybe two hypothetical products and you expect the one to do really well. The other one you expect to function as a downsell, but you don't think that's gonna get as much juice. And in fact, when you look at the results, when you look at the data, much to your surprise, you find out like, oh my gosh, the second product went really, really well. And the first one that I thought was gonna be super successful was a wet, juicy fart. Now, this one, I would note, isn't particularly cognitively demanding. It's pretty intuitive, like, okay, well, I tried this thing, this one worked, this didn't. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm not understanding why, but usually when we're looking at outcomes, we will inherently bring to our analysis a little bit more humility, because as the saying goes, marketing in particular is just another word for test. So anytime you're getting different outcomes, you're able to integrate that data and then begin to unpack why something worked and why something didn't. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is still pretty hard, right? It's hard oftentimes to unpack in business why something went wrong. I might even suggest it's often harder to unpack why something was a success, because everything is multivariate. There's a lot of different variables, a lot of different factors that go into successes or failures. But nonetheless, I think it's intuitive to most of us when we don't get an outcome we expect that there's something we didn't know, there's something for us to learn. I would contrast this with what I consider to be a thornier knot, which is when you're not understanding the behaviors of someone else. So again, this could be something that happens with your clients. This could be something that happens with your personal life. It might happen, dear watchers, you look at your society at large, but the particular context I want to dig into a little bit here is when someone on your team is acting in a way that to you at first blush doesn't make sense. It's mystifying, right? So this could show up in a lot of different ways. It might be, for instance, you keep having a conversation with an individual about a behavior you'd like to see change, and they just keep doing it. And you might find yourself saying, well, my goodness, this just doesn't make sense. I've been completely explicit about it. Well, it doesn't make sense to you, but remember, that's a warning sign. Whenever you find yourself saying, this doesn't make sense, particularly with human behaviors, you wanna stop, you wanna pause, you wanna get humble, and you want to get curious, and often you want to ask questions. It means you're missing data. The underlying foundation for this tends to be the social capital invested in the relationship. So the healthier the relationship is, the more there is a real care for each other, respect for each other's dignity, the better off these conversations are going to go. But the classic example I think we can all relate to is, let's say you have a higher performing trainer who suddenly stops performing at the level you'd seen, they're snapping at clients, they're running a little bit late, and then you come to find out, although this didn't make sense at first blush, there's something going on in this individual's personal life that is very, very challenging. So this moves from a more strident, disciplined conversation to you looking for how can I support this individual through this transient period of challenge and make sure that they're getting the support they need so that they're able to make it through this difficult time. When we work in an organization, we give each other what we lack, which is the most optimistic way of saying, likely if you have a variety of personality styles and dispositions and worldviews, you're gonna have some tension. And ultimately that can make the thinking better. I would refer you to the video that I did about all minus one. So ultimately, this is a positive thing, but in practice, this is gonna sometimes have tensions. And sometimes when someone is wired very differently than you, a lot of the behavior, a lot of the time, you'll catch yourself thinking, this doesn't make sense. Why are they behaving like that, right? And sometimes there might be an obvious transient thing going on in their personal life, like I just mentioned. And sometimes it might just be, they're just wired differently. They had a different upbringing. They were born with a different set of DNA. They just function very differently in the world with a slightly different set of values. And again, this is not to be mutually exclusive with holding people accountable. This isn't to say that there's not a time and place to address behaviors that people aren't rising to the standards you've set. It's just to say that when you find yourself saying, this doesn't make sense, you should stop. You should pause, you should get curious, and you should get humble, because everything and all humans are following an eternal logic. This individual might not even be behaving in the way that's going to move them towards what they most want, but there is an analysis that would allow you, and in a perfect world, if there's a very self-aware person, to come to understand the roots of this behavior, what they're trying to get, even though admittedly, sometimes humans, just like businesses, behave in ways that actually push them away from the things they want most. All right, friends, well, thank you for that. Thank you for jumping down that philosophical rabbit hole with me. I hope you find it useful. As always, if you like this video, it would be so cool if you liked it, if you subscribed, and if you were share it with any other training gym owners you know, because at Business for Unicorns, we are really committed to making sure the training gym owners really have an amazing life and amazing business. And we can only do that if as many training gym owners as possible find out that we exist and preferably watch our videos. I'll catch you on the next video for more actionable tips, psychological frameworks, and philosophy.